Welcome to Yakety Mac, y'all. My name is Jeff, and I appreciate you watching. If you are not a subscriber, I sure hope you'll consider doing so. For those of us that love to fish from a kayak, we know that we are always modifying our rides. We're always chasing that perfect setup for us, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. Now, if I had to venture to guess, I would say that probably 90% of all kayak anglers store their rods like this, vertically, and it works. However, horizontal would be the most optimal if we could. The problem with horizontal storage is that most of it looks like this. And while that certainly makes our rods more accessible, it also creates a host of other problems like paddling, steering, landing fish, etc. So what if we could have the best of both worlds? What if we could go horizontal to allow ourselves to get under limbs or walkways or low bridges or piers, but yet not interfere with the functionality of the kayak? I believe we can, and I'm about to show you how I'm going to do it. Now, in the world of horizontal storage systems for kayaks, there are really two main players. You've got the flex rod stager system here from Yak Gadget, and more recently, you've got the side stage system from Yak Attack. Now, both of these are right around the same price point. Both of these will work. It really is going to be a matter of personal preference. I chose to go with the flex rod stager system from Yak Gadget. I like its lower profile and its more subtle look. However, it's really up to you which one you want to use. Now, what we're going to do today is not specific to Old Town. This would work on virtually any sit-on-top kayak. It's going to be track mounted, so if you've got the existing track to use, perfect. If not, you may have to add some. Now, some of the track I am adding is specific to Old Town, thanks to the ingenuity of the folks over at Navarre Kayak Fishing. So I'm not going to show you how I'm mounting my track or anything of that sort. You guys are all smart enough to figure that out and know what you're doing on your own. What I am going to do is just skip straight to the final product, and we will look at how it looks, and we'll also talk about its practicality. So let's go there now. Okay, guys, so what do you think? Horizontal rod storage on a kayak. Now, I threw a tape measure on this right here. It does extend the length of my yak about 2 feet coming off of the back. That's not going to be a problem. I've only got a 10.5-foot kayak as it is anyway. I installed these on both sides. The flex rod system comes with bungees here. Simply pull it over your rods and latch it onto the bottom, help hold them in place. And for those of you who might be wondering what Old Town specific mounts that I used, I've got 2 of these rod holder replacements. It's got the track already built in, one on each side. You simply pop out the rod tubes, pop these in. And then on this side, I used a Yak Attack track mount. And over here is the accessory plate from Navarre. Just uses the 4-bolt pattern. The holes were already here on the kayak. Most kayaks have somewhere on the back to mount a 4-hole pattern. So this is not even Old Town specific. All right. So there we go. 6 rods, guys. It does not interfere with the paddle. Does not interfere with my forward-facing rod holder or my rudder. Rudder deployment on the other side. Also, no interference. So you might think that I am done, but I'm not. Let me show you one more thing. Okay, guys, so I have also installed a staging arm on the track here located on the gunnel port side of my kayak. So now I can face 1 or 2 going this way if I want to quickly be able to switch in and out between the 2. So let's say I got a short strike on a chatterbait or something and I want to throw a Texas rig into the same spot. I can quickly lay one down, pick one up. And again, it does not interfere with functionality. I have my steering control here. My forward-facing rod holder will not interfere with that. If I needed to paddle, it would. I would simply flip the rod around and face it the other direction. And so you might be like, okay, that looks intriguing, but how does it work in practicality? Well, there's only one way to know, and that's to put it on the water and find out. Your first time seeing it will be my first time using it. So let's get out there and see how it does. All right, guys, we are at the lake and the water level is very, very low here today. So I'm going to have to paddle a little further out than normal. before I drop my pedal unit. So this will be a good chance for us to make sure that we're not going to interfere with paddling. I'm not doing anything different than I normally do when I paddle. I'm not changing up my stroke at all. I did bump the one that I have here in front the first time, but that's not normally where my stroke is at. All right, we're out in 6 feet of water now, and I can drop this down. We can start testing out the staging system. All right, we dropped the PDL unit. Done. Deploy the rudder. Done. I did take my hand up underneath these rod butts here to deploy the rudder, but that's done now. And man, I have never seen the water this low here. It is very, very, very low. So as far as targeting fish goes, that's not really why I'm out here. I'm out here to test out the rod staging system, but it'd be nice to get one. All right, guys, so here we're going to go. I've got my rods latched down. Did that while I was backing down the ramp. And so now it's just a matter of reaching around, unsnapping it, grab my rod, and I'm ready to go. Let's do chatterbait. Okay, guys, so this works out well for someone who's maybe got some back issues. I do not, fortunately, but if you do, maybe you're not quite as limber as you used to be. With your rod stored in a vertical fashion, behind you, you have to turn around, look at your rods, and grab them. With this right here, it's very minimal. I'm making a very minimal turn to reach around and grab these rods. I can choose to latch them in if I want to, or I can leave them unlatched. It'll probably be about 50% of the time for me. I'll do one or the other. So that's an advantage for sure by having them stored horizontally. All right. So now I'm going to switch over to a different rod. So I am going to unlatch, lay this in the trough, and switch. The main reason I wanted to do this was so that I could switch out rods quickly. There have been times when it gets to be kind of a hassle reaching behind me, weaving my rods through one another, picking one out and then throwing something different. But while I do that, I have to do something with my other rod. So if my normal rear-facing rod holder already had a rod in it, then I'd have to reach back there and find my open spot back there and put it in there. And that kept me from alternating probably as much as I should. You throw up into an area and you don't get a strike. Maybe it's the wrong lure. I read here recently that about 40% of the time a bass sees your lure, it does not react to it. And that's a pretty large number if you think about it. It's something that's actually kind of discouraging. So was it the presentation? Was it that particular lure? So a lot of times if we throw up into an area and nothing happens, we assume nothing's there. That's not always the case. So I wanted to be able to alternate back and forth with less hassle so that I'm more apt to do it. I think another advantage for me being able to go horizontal is that I'm more able to access what's in my crate back here. I don't have rods off to the side of the crate or in the front of the crate that are obstructing my pathway to get back in there. So that allows me to, if this is going to be my sole rod storage usage. Now look, just because you install horizontal doesn't mean you have to give up your vertical. You can keep your crates and with all your vertical rod holders and use them situationally if you wanted to. I plan to do this full time if it works out the way that I think it's going to. I plan to always store them horizontally. But let's say you're going to do that. Well, then that opens up the options that you have for how you're going to store your tackle back here. Most of us pick a storage system based on its ability to also hold our rods. If that's no longer needed, well, now we can rethink how we're going to store all of our tackle. All right, what about a jig? Boy, I love how easy that is just to switch out. So I know that this is a rather, quick test. Just got on the water and messed with it. It's going to be a little clumsy at first, as with anything that's new, until I get used to it. But I really do think this is going to be something that I'm going to love. I have been thinking about horizontal storage for so long now. I just wasn't exactly sure how I wanted to do it. I knew I did not want it coming up here along the front of the boat, other than when I'm just resting a rod for momentarily. I knew I just did not want that at all. It's just going to interfere with the functionality of the boat. And so I really do believe that this is going to be a good solution. It's going to get a very real world test here in 6 days. I've got my first tournament of the year coming up on Saturday. And so, of course, that's going to be 8.5 hours, 9 hours on the water with this in full use. I encourage you to be be on the lookout for that video. And I can give you a much more in-depth analysis of what I think of this. But I believe I love it. I've been wanting to do this for a while now. If you've got any questions at all, be sure to let me know. I guess the only thing for me to decide is where I'm going to put this snazzy Yak Gadget decal that came with these things. Spend $150 on rod stagers and you get a sticker. Well, and rod stagers. But that's okay, guys. Look, if you've got any questions on this or you've got any comments, let me know. If you've done something similar, by all means, let me know. Do me a favor and hit that thumbs up, that like button if you would. I sure would appreciate it. Leave me a comment, share this video if you are so inclined. And hey, look, no matter what you've got going on in your life, I hope you'll always take some time to get outside and play.